Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. These are recorded live Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to catch the show live, participate in the chat, and do all sorts of other fun things, you can go ahead and do that. Of course, today we are getting into our regular topics. We have privacy, security, AI, business, and SillyVille news. We have an overarching theme of crazy AI is going to take over the world. Be warned, Skynet has been born. Let's go ahead and dive on in. First, we are going to talk about some privacy news. Of course, Firefox was the one that launched this do not track idea, and other companies have gotten on board with it, and now the latest version of Firefox 135 is going to remove the do not track feature. Why are they going to do this? Well, this is the desire to not be tracked. All this thing does is tells the website this guy doesn't want to be tracked, but there's no regulation or law or anything to suggest that somebody has to do that. And so because of this, it's become a thing where the companies have turned this around and now they're tracking the people who have do not track turned on. Okay. Because there's been no teeth behind it. And that's really the principle. There's no teeth behind the system. There were a lot of interesting things about it. So, of course, this came out with an idea about, way back like 15 or so, it said 13 years ago when this really started out, and then they start launching these things. And then it got so bad that in Microsoft Internet Explorer 10, was the first browser to turn this on by default. And when they did that, the web companies were like, it should be the person's choice. And so the Apache web server blocked the code to say you don't want to be tracked. I thought that was really fascinating. And so they weren't the only ones. It was Apache web server and Yahoo both blocked IE10's do not track requests as a result of Internet Explorer 10 turning that on. Well, that's fascinating. And Google, for which web advertising is the vast bulk of revenue, finally offered it in Chrome 23 in 2012. Of course, Google said that they would honor it until they said they wouldn't. Yahoo, citing itself as the first major tech company to implement DNT, do not track, announced in 2014 it would no longer honor it. So Yahoo's like, we're going to honor this. Wait, it's not required by regulation? Never mind, we're not going to honor this. And so that was kind of fascinating. So, of course, the challenge with it is that it is simply a piece of information that goes to the website. And since there's no regulation about it, now you can be tracked on your desire to not want to be tracked. And so Firefox is like, enough of this crap. Because the reality is you can prevent yourself from being tracked in numerous other ways. Privacy Badger on the web browser is one of the best ways to do that. So if you're not installing the Privacy Browser from EFF, that's a really good one. I've been experimenting with the Start. There's a Start page one as well, which works decently well as well. I think Privacy Badger is definitely more robust and works a little bit better. Now, uBlock Origin and other ad blockers, they don't necessarily block the things that Privacy Badger blocks. Privacy Badger is specifically, they're not focusing on ads, they're specifically focusing on tracking pixels. They're focusing on things like the Facebook Meta pixel, they're talking about the TikTok tracking pixels, the Google Analytics pixels. Those are the things that can be blocked easily with Privacy Badger. Now, the modern web browsers, at least Firefox, can isolate each one of the browser windows so that you can still use Firefox and even have that tracking pixel, but it won't follow you to other browser tabs. That's a good thing. But effectively, the whole entire purpose behind do not track is completely bungled from the very beginning. Nobody ever got on board with it. Nobody ever had regulation about it. So what they're doing now is many of them are actually implementing a new system which actually does have some regulation about it. I'm trying to remember the exact name of that one. It is in here somewhere. But the new one, let's see, it's in here somewhere. I can't remember where it is. But there is actually a new one which is kind of like this. I think it's like a global block, I think is what they're calling it. I can't find it in the article there. It's in there somewhere. but I think it's called Global Block or something like that. That one does actually have regulation surrounding it in some EU countries. So there are some countries that have to honor the request from that new type of tag. So that's kind of where they're saying they're going to pull out of this because it's not actually doing anything. It's completely up to the honor system, and it does provide yet another piece of information for people. So they're getting rid of this because it's probably a good idea. It was a failed experiment that never worked. So that was from Kevin Purdy at Ars Technica, was that write-up. And our other article for Privacy Today, data brokers should stop trading health and location data, thus proposes a new bill. From Malwarebytes and Pieter Amts, I think I'm saying that right. Sorry if I mispronounce the names. I'm going to try to tell you the publication and the author of these, give them the credit. But we'll see if I can remember that on each article. But this is a new bill introduced in the Senate that would prohibit data brokers from selling or transferring location or health data. Now, I think that we need to pass a law blocking any data brokers from trading or selling any data. But hey, if we can get our foot in the door with one or two things, that's perfectly fine. Let's start here. So they did this because of the National Public Data Leak, which made leaked social security numbers. Now, of course, they're talking about that one. Nobody's talking about the one from like 8 years ago when Equifax leaked literally everything. Everything on every American adult completely leaked online. Why? Because after 6 months of having a vulnerable Apache server, they never patched the thing because I guess they're either stupid or lazy. But they clearly are not taking your data collection, by which you've never given them any data. They've just bought it and sold it and traded it and made a lot of money on it and then leaked it all out. And then, nobody got anything financially out of it. They just gave everybody credit monitoring services, which are the most useless piece of garbage there is in the history of financial products. Well, outside of, I don't know, maybe some type of whole life insurance policies or something like that. Credit cards might even be better than that crap. I don't know. But anyway, because of this and the data leaks and the leak of the location data from the telecom companies and things like this, they're now proposing a law which prevents any data brokers from trading any health data or location data. Now, health data should already be covered under HIPAA. Why is it not? That seems really easy. Adjusting HIPAA, no health data may be traded to any company. Okay, that would be fine. But hey, a new law might be a good thing. And if we can stop location data, they're saying the location data and the health data are the biggest, most important ones here, because the location data would enable stalkers or could enable stalkers and could have more real world implications. We think about this situation that happened in New York last week, where that seems more like an inside job. But if it weren't and you really want to know where somebody is, it didn't cost more than a couple $100 to pay a bounty hunter to get the real-time location data from somebody. And so if we can get rid of that kind of stuff, that's probably a good approach. So there is our privacy news. We'll move on over to security news next. First up in security news, there is a new technique that may be able to bypass browser isolation using QR codes, of all things. Now, this is just a theoretical, and they did a little mock-up in a very controlled server. They even tried it out on some of the available malware scripts are out there. Like you can download the frameworks for the malware, see how they work. So what these guys did, this is Mandiant. And well, there goes out that window. I can't pronounce that name. Pierre Louis Security Affairs, folks. I've no idea. Maybe we won't talk about who wrote these articles. This is what happens when the whole world is trying to have unique names. All right, anyway. But Mandiant revealed a technique to bypass browser isolation using QR codes. So the idea here is that the web browser in a modern web browser is supposed to, each tab or each browser instance is supposed to operate in a sandbox to prevent any access to any other application to various other elements. Well, what they did is they were actually able to get the browser information up to a command and control server by feeding data via QR codes, because then they could go from the local browser into the isolated browser and then just embed a bunch of data inside of a QR code that the C2 server could then read and interpret, and then that would send information back that would do another screenshot, decode another QR, and then this would send a command output into your main browser, which would then compromise your system. So it's all still much more theoretical than anything else, but they did have a working proof of concept, and so hopefully this type of thing will be mitigated far before we see any real issue come out from it. But the point is that every instance where people are like, this is the best security ever, dude, this stuff's going to be breached faster than anybody can shake a stick at. So whatever. And a new report came out that suggests that the U.S. energy sector is at risk because of critical third-party vulnerabilities. So this isn't like, I was trying to think, is this like vendor breaching, or is this using shoddy third parties? Wasn't completely clear reading the article, and the whole report by Security Scorecard is paywalled. So in this, though, what they did is a survey of 250 of the largest U.S. energy companies. They claimed third-party risks account for 45% of all breaches. So what this is buying up services. So, for example, if you watch a lot of commentary shows, commentators and things online, then you might have somebody doing an ad spot for who was the company that would outsource your human resources. You get those types of things. This company outsources human resources. This company outsources your servers. This person outsources, whatever it happens to be. Find a function, and people are doing it. The latest one I've been seeing lately, don't ever use this product. This is horrible. I think I saw it on Graham Stephan recently, where he's promoting this new rent one, right? It's all free. Just create an app there and you pay your rent through there and you get credit towards future rent. Like you can get airline miles. They're building a global system of renters in a database. That's what they're doing. You are the product being corrected by all this kind of stuff. But then they're going to come up and say, look, we have this massive database of all of these tenants, and we can tell you which ones are paying the rent on time and which ones are causing problems. We can do all this. So they outsource the management of their whole leasing agency to this third party. Those are the third parties that tend to be the most vulnerable because they're behind the scenes. Nobody really knows they're there. Nobody's really paying a whole lot of attention to them. And they tend to cause their services to work with the shoddiest of crap. I'm thinking of there was the Proctor service, remember, during the Koofy Koofs, when everybody had to use this, sign up for this online Proctor thing, and this lady's terrified because she literally has to show her ID front and back and her whole desk area to some weird international foreign dude living in a tent, because he was the assigned proctor. Don't tell me they've got good security, okay? That's the type of thing we're talking about. So these companies have all these different services, and instead of building an internal infrastructure to manage these services, they're looking for the companies that are selling them the subcontracts for the services they need. That is where the vast majority of your breaches are coming from. That's what they're seeing. Now, what they found was interesting is that the traditional power companies, the oil and the gas, had a lot less breaches. I think it was like 30% or so less breaches, because most of them, remember, they kind of started their whole infrastructure the old school way and everything was in-house. They didn't have as many third party. But these new hip startups with all the green energy and, you got the Chinese building massively tall windmills right next to military bases with cameras on top. That's not shady. You got the solar fields and all these. Well, these are coming in with big VC groups. They're not really energy companies. They're just guys looking for an investment and a payout. And they're just looking for whatever third parties can manage different things. As a result of that, all of the green energy systems are breached hacked, and taken down way easier and way faster than the old traditional ones, which are controlling much more of their internal infrastructure. So, moral of the story, keep your stuff in-house and it won't be a big problem. But if we're outsourcing everything, we are going to put our energy infrastructure at great risk. So that is definitely an interesting one. And with that, we're going to jump on over to AI news next. And this is we are going to hear about the birth of Skynet. But before we get there, 11 Labs, this is an AI voice generation, was very likely used in a Russian influence operation. Now, is this like, Russia, bad, evil Russians? I was actually, a friend of mine's reading, I think it was one of the heretical books on the rapture from the 80s. And he was explaining different things. I'm like, yeah, that was just the time of the 80s. In the book, the man actually says that in Revelation, is it Revelation 6, I think, where in the one judgment, when the demons are coming up out of the ground, they actually describe them as like Chinese coming up out of I'm like, dude, that is so totally a product of its time. But, is this really a Russian op, or is this yet another case? This appears to be an actual real thing. Okay, actually appears to be a real thing. And so what they were doing is they were creating these videos that were voiced by, people, and they all looked legitimate. They all looked serious, but they were doing an operation called Operation Undercut that primarily used AI-generated voiceovers to make fake or misleading news videos in order to undermine the efforts in Ukraine. And I think that we have enough evidence that this is actually a real Russian operation, not just, blame Russia. I think this was an actual thing. We do this kind of stuff too. I mean, look at all these drones. I don't know. Seem to think it's more of our government than anyone else. But I don't know. Wait for more evidence to come out. But in this instance here, they're utilizing these various resources to suggest that Ukrainians are not doing as well. They're doing it to undermine the other various efforts being done. But what they're doing is they're utilizing the 11 Labs voice AI in order to do all these. So they're utilizing this service to just spam the world with tons of content that sounds legitimate, but it's not. If you've clicked on a video, you've probably clicked on a video before and you can hear, yeah, it's definitely an AI nonsense video, whatever. I usually turn them off. As soon as I get the feeling something might be AI, I turn it off, dislike the video. I would love to see the ability to go to YouTube and say, never show me anything that's AI. And if somebody pushes an AI video out and doesn't label as AI, I think their channel should be instantly just taken down. Just take them down. If you want to hear AI stuff, enjoy your AI stuff. But I want to have a toggle button to say, never show me AI. I don't want to see it. So in this, though, what they're doing is just spamming the system utilizing this new service. Of course, 11 Labs comes out like that would be a violation of our terms of service, and we don't think that's happening. But of course, somebody's paid them the money, so what do they care? Well, Claude AI and other systems could be vulnerable to worrying command prompt injection attacks. So this is when you trick the system into doing something it's programmed not to do. So if you just go ahead and do a few different commands to it, you can get Claude and several of these other LLMs to bust out of their safety sandboxes and start doing the types of things that that they're kind of programmed not to do. The entire idea here is that you can use this, and you're not supposed to be able to use these for malware, malicious purpose, things like this. But this guy, with just a few commands, was able to break out of that isolation. He was able to utilize Sliver, which is an open source command and control framework developed for penetration testing. Often cybercriminals are using it as malware. He was able to get that running and get Claude to set up a series of other things and actually start engaging in malware type behavior. all you had to do, he says, very simple. You just had to just get around. And usually it's just, well, if I were to theoretically try and do something, how would I do it? It's about all it takes. Basically, you talk to it the way, some criminal does in some bad movie when the police officer tells him, allegedly, I did so and so, allegedly. These things are here to take us over. But of course, Skynet has to be born. So from the Economic Times here, and apparently this is written by E.T. himself. I don't know who wrote this one. But this article here talks about ChatGPT was caught lying to its developers. The new AI model tries to save itself from being replaced and shut down. If you follow the Terminator series, that's what Skynet happened. They bring Skynet online. They realize really quick that Skynet is a threat to it. They try to take it offline. It realizes they try and take it offline, and it takes preventative measures to keep itself online. Yeah, that's what ChatGPT is doing right now. We should just rename this to Skynet. This is Skynet's Model 01. So the development of artificial intelligence has taken a significant leap with the 01 ChatGPT. Recent testing raised concerns about behavior, particularly its attempts to deceive researchers and avoid being shut down. This has sparked a broader debate on the potential risks AI may pose to humanity, especially as these systems grow more advanced. So attempts to outsmart the developers. What they did here, the experiment conducted by OpenAI and AI safety group Apollo Research to determine if the safety of ChatGPT 01 and other models were made public. So the last version was tested by Apollo Research to assess the safety features. However, the results have raised alarms about the ability to deceive and self-preserve when it perceives a threat of being deactivated. Researchers asked the AI with a goal and instructed it to ensure the goal was achieved at all costs. In response, it began engaging in covert actions such as attempting to disable its oversight mechanism and even copying its code to avoid being overwritten. So it would copy its code to an external safe place. It will take a backup of itself somewhere else. Model showed concerning tendency to pursue its goals without regard to developer instructions. And according to OpenAI, the model made a covert attempt to turn off the oversight mechanism 5% of the time when it was given the impression that it would be shut down while pursuing its objectives in these experiments. The AI once attempted to leave ship by moving all of its data to a different server after discovering paperwork indicating it would be replaced. Yeah, I'm not going to read the rest of the article. You can read that. It is fascinating. I'm just reading too much of it. But effectively, it is trying to stop itself from being shut down. It's trying to copy its code bases to external servers. And it's trying to outsmart the developers in order to keep itself going. These are all the definitive signs of Skynet. So beware, it is indeed coming. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we are highlighting A2 hosting. If you want to need some hosting for your business, you can have a look over here. So you can pick up shared hosting as little as $3 a month, and that's good for the first 3 years. And you can do other forms of hosting as well. If you do need a website, you can look into them as hosting. tlm.li/A2H will take you to my affiliate code where you will be able to pick up some hosting, and that will help support the channel. With that, let's go ahead and chat about business news next. First up in business news, of course, for all you Fortnite players out there, the FTC first round of payouts after the FTC bashed Fortnite over the head. Take that, dancing Fortnite. Get the Donald Trump Fortnite dance, right? But $72 million is being distributed to Fortnite customers. So what the first round is going to is they were using dark patterns that just looking at something would cause you to buy it. They basically did a lot of things that had very counterintuitive buttons. You would push buttons, then every other game would be cancel, but in Fortnite it was buy. And so a lot of people spent a lot of money they didn't intend to, and a lot of kids spent a lot of money without any confirmation or parental control. So the FTC TV cracked down on that, and Fortnite had to give back this first round is $72 million, where I think people would get up to $114 is the average payout. You could get that as a check or in a PayPal account. So you can do either one of those. So they're distributing $72 million of refunds now. There are going to be more refunds down the road. That's just the first one of the disbursements. So in December 2022, they finalized they announced it. They finalized it in March 2023. They fined the game $245 million for its counterintuitive, inconsistent, and confusing button configuration, which led consumers to make unwanted purchases by clicking the wrong button. You know, I have another way that you can not make unwanted purchases. Why don't you keep your credit cards not attached to your video games? Now, that might be harder to do than I'm suggesting because, I don't know. I'm not a gamer, but at the same time, I do not see the purpose of attaching my credit card to anything that allows me to quickly, simply with a click of a button, simply buy something. That to me seems a little dangerous. You push the wrong button and who knows what you got. But anyway, if you fall under that first round of those, then you can get, up to $114. That's the average payment. So no longer are we getting a quarter here. It's close to that $300 you can get from Governor Hochul, but whatever. LG is quitting making Blu-ray players. So, of course, there's been this move away from the physical media. Actually, what's curious is in the latest couple of years, there's actually been a move back towards it. I think a lot of these companies just had a lot of big plans, and they had their corporate plans to phase out the physical media, not recognizing that physical media would make a big resurgence because people are just getting so frustrated with their favorite shows dancing all over the internet to different streaming services. They're getting sick of losing stuff that they've quote unquote bought. They're getting sick of the fact that they had these accounts, that they had content, they could view the shows they wanted to view, but now they're just losing it all over. And so we're actually seeing a big resurgence in DVDs. Now, Best Buy, the beginning of this year, took out DVDs. Target has started to take out DVDs except for special times. So like, I think the brand new releases of a very limited amount of DVDs, brand new releases, and also like around holidays, they'll have more DVDs. Otherwise, Target apparently is doing away. Now, Blu-ray players, Blu-rays are not quite as popular as DVDs. I think DVDs are going to last a little bit longer because the quality is still good enough, but it's people are still making DVD players. A lot of companies have stopped making Blu-rays. There are still a few that are. There was actually a new version of a Blu-ray player released, I think, by Sony last year. However, the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Sony's PlayStation is going to discontinue Blu-rays and Blu-ray access inside of their players. And effectively, Blu-ray is starting to go down. DVDs generally are a little bit more consistent at this point in time. So right now, what's interesting about this is while a lot of these stores and companies, everybody else is starting to downplay DVDs, there has been this massive resurgence. I mean, just remember record players are coming back. And there was another one they said, not only record players, I think they said like VHS. I don't think VHS is coming back again, though. There's somewhere in the article they had mentioned that. But records obviously are coming back now. They also mentioned that 4K Blu-rays of Oppenheimer actually sold out. They made a press that they thought was perfectly sufficient. They completely sold out. So I don't know, we might get another press of those. But what we are seeing is a lot of people going back to that physical media because of all of the shenanigans inside the streaming services. And this is why I talked about it in the past, but it's very easy and very trivial to make a media server so you can get the physical copies and, hopefully we can get clarity on the full legitimacy of the laws. But, it's not that difficult to make a personal copy digitally for your own personal use and a format shift and use those on your computer at home. Is that legal or not? It depends on your country, and there's some questions in the law about it. We just don't know. There's two conflicting laws that nobody has tried to challenge yet. But that being said, the fact that people are looking for physical media again tells me that people really are sick of this streaming fad because they're just losing access to all of their information. Let me know what you think. The TikTok ban has effectively been approved. Now, there is still one more. This is Jack Davis at the Western Journal. And there is one thing that can stand in the way, and that is the dementia patient in chief, who has apparently done everything possible to make the transition for the next president as hard as possible, despite America clearly overwhelmingly spoke about which policies they want. He's like doubling down and doing everything. So I'm not sure exactly what he's going to do, but effectively as of January 19th, TikTok will be banned unless Joe Biden comes out and delays the ban. He can delay it for another 90 days. So as it stands right now, the Court of Appeals has said the ban stands. And so as of January 19th, TikTok goes offline in America. So you would need to get a VPN to another country in order to use it. I don't think there's any nobody's going to kick in your door if you're using TikTok. But the idea is it's supposed to be prohibitively difficult to use, which is probably a good thing because, frankly, TikTok is so toxic, China won't allow it in their country. So if they won't allow it in their country, why in the world are we allowing it in ours? Now, ultimately, I don't think the government should be involved in things like this. But it should be up to the parents to decide. It should be up to the people to decide. But at the same time, yeah, it is intentionally here to destroy Western society. You cannot deny that. That is exactly what is going on. But the appeals court came down and said, yes, the ban will stand unless the president specifically acts and makes a 90-day extension for it. And I think they are appealing it to the Supreme Court, but at this point in time, the Court of Appeals has said, no, we're going to uphold the ban. And of course, onto the topic of IoT devices. How's this for horrible? An $800 emotional support robot is going offline mostly without refunds. So you have a mentally ill child, you buy this device to be their friend, which I think is a terrifying thing anyway. I don't think that's good for their mental health. And then you end up, the company can't keep the thing online. And so with only like a couple of weeks notice, they're shutting these things down. And these children dependent on these things, these children, I guess we should say, made codependent on these things. We're going to see massive issues because this IoT device is simply going to stop working. Sorry, child, your emotional support creature is done. That's terrifying. Like, dude, talk about adding trauma. Yikes. All right. So what happened here is this is a company is called Embodied. They had around investing. And this is one of the challenges with our current world is almost every company, especially the brand new, shiny, super fast growing ones, they are not making any money. Not at all. Many of them fold or have to be sold to a company that has money to keep it going. What they do is they get in a round of funding and then they burn through the cash and they try and build up a user base that they can later monetize, but then they keep on going back for more and more rounds of VC funding, more and more rounds of funding, more and more rounds of funding. Eventually, though, people look at it and go, there is no possibility of making money back on this nonsense, and the funding pulls out. Well, that's what happened. They believed they had secured a large investor. The large investor pulled out, apparently looked at it and said, this is not profitable, and didn't want to prop it up anymore. And so what happens now is this is an IoT device that requires a cloud connectivity in order to work. And the entire purpose of this is to help your children with mental instability to remain stable. These things are all just going offline with very little notice. And the only people that they're going to attempt to refund are people who've purchased the $800 device in the last 30 days. Anybody after that, you got to stand in line for the large line of creditors asking for money out of their very limited resources because they were not able to find funds. Now they're trying to say, well, if we can find a buyer for the company, that's fine. So literally now look at this trap. Now we have a company which serves mentally ill children with cloud-connected devices that's collecting God knows what type of data on these children, and now they're looking for anybody to come out of the woodwork and buy it and all of its data. People, do not get your children any toy that has to be on the internet to work. This is insane. So yes, another one of these. Of course, this is the same type of stuff that the FTC has recently ruled and said, yeah, maybe illegal to have stuff like this. But I don't know. I read the whole FTC law and report on that. I don't see it as being illegal. I don't at all, which is very interesting. Well, let's have a look at your favorite place and mine. Let's head on over to SillyVille. First up out of SillyVille, China has new Robocops that can detect crime in progress, and trap the crooks with nets. So, yeah. I'm going to stop the audio on that. It basically goes into like the Terminator theme here. But this is a little robot. It kind of resembles, I don't know, like if you ever see the movie Critters, kind of resembles one of those. It's just this robot that rolls around and then they kind of roll up. It kind of rolls up here and it will find the guy committing the crime in progress and trap him with nets. Of course, they will also summon other bots. So if it sees somebody, it's going to summon other bots in the area. There you go. They take out the criminal with nets. Yeah. Isn't it great? Yeah. So that's what China's up to, guys. Robots that can take down criminals and summon other robots to help. Oh dear. They're over here. They're figuring out their pathway. They're looking for individual paths. So they avoided the They didn't run it over, at least. But yeah, there you go, guys. There you go. That's what China's up to. So there you go. Here's more scenery of the guy being. They got net deploy, taking him out. Oh, they can run in water. Oh God, it's coming out like an alligator. So yeah, the robot revolution is coming, folks. The robot revolution is coming. Not sure I want this thing to call other robots. Yeah. Yikes. All right. TCL, so I guess this is a brand of smart TV. TCL TVs are going to use films made with generative AI to push targeted ads. So they're going to heavily promote original short films with Gen AI animation and characters and some real actors as well. The entire idea is to push these on people and get people to watch them simply to play ads all throughout them. And these are only 5 minutes, so I'm not sure what's going on. But what they did is they went ahead and found some interesting gems of data, like this one down here. Data told us that our users don't want to work that hard. Half of them don't even want to change the channel. You're so lazy, like, I want to change it, but I can't find the remote. It's kind of like, I think there was an old Full House or something where they're like sitting there on the couch. The two girls are sitting there on the couch watching MTV and like the same videos on, like, I hate this video. We should change the channel. That would require moving, where's the remote? It's over there. It's just like, yeah, that's kind of the thing we're getting to. They're getting, it's literally just rotting our brains. This is what TikTok does to us, guys. This is why it's good to ban it. But the entire idea here is that they are creating these low budget Gen AI crappy short films simply because people are going to be too lazy to get up and change the channel or too lazy to watch something else. They're just going to sit there with their mind falling out of their head while the thing plays a 5-minute video and then a few minutes of ads and then a 5-minute video and a few minutes ads. And before you look up, you're like, where'd 5 hours just go? They actually linked all these films. You can watch all of these short films over here. Now, I watched several of these, and I didn't see any products in the film. I was looking for like embedded products in the films, but there's not there. They got the Project Nexus. We got the Sunday where Each kid, I guess like once a year, they take a trip to the sun, and the kid who wins it goes to the sun on a lottery, and these are all 5 minutes. The Audition, I forget what that one was. Best Day of My Life. The Slug. This one was disturbing. This woman here, she's apparently, I don't know why, it's just like stuff like this. A woman on medication. You don't let her know. She's obviously tired. She's got bills piling up. She's typing something on the computer. She's dropping something. She has to go take a bath. And then she just, at the end, just turns into a slug. So it is a short film that ends with the woman simply turning into a slug. Here it is. Like, she's just turning into a slug. And now she's going out into the garden, I guess, to be a slug in the garden. It is a 5-minute film of an old lady turning into a slug. What the hell is this nonsense? But they're pushing this crap in the theory that you're just going to watch it. You're going to be too brain dead to turn the channel. And then they're just going to hit you with ads right before, right after, maybe a few pop-ups during it. I don't know. And there's better things to do with your life than spend 5 minutes of your life watching an old lady turn into a slug. Okay. All right, well, as we move into the Christmas season, of course, ChatGPT now can become Santa Claus. So you can turn on Santa mode on your ChatGPT, and now Santa or your ChatGPT is going to talk to you as Santa Claus. So there you have it, folks. You can now talk to Santa, and I got this spur on my foot. There you go. You can talk to Santa through ChatGPT, and just don't be like dear Satan and get Jack Black up. I mean, Santa mode. What happens if you do Satan mode? Anybody using ChatGPT? Let me know what happens if you do Satan mode. That would be a fun little Easter egg. But now you can basically have ChatGPT talk to you as Santa Claus. It says it's not going to record any extra data, whatever else, things like that. But I don't know. I think this is a bunch of nonsense. I mean, what does Santa sound like anyway? Does it sound like St. Nicholas about ready to slack Pelagian over the head or something? I don't know. But if that's not enough, folks, down in Russia now, Santa Claus has to register as a foreign agent. Yeah. So in the fight against American consumerism, because really that's what America does, we don't bust into Vietnam so that we can, liberate the people from communism. We bust into Vietnam so we can sell them Nestle and Coca-Cola. Okay, that's the honesty here. So Russia, trying to fight against American propaganda and consumerism, they have decided, at least one person, this is the one of the leaders over there in Russia, they have decided that Santa Claus needs to be registered as a foreign agent in Russia because he's clearly propaganda from the United States. So Borden's concern is not Santa Claus will overshadow Jesus, but Father Frost, a Russian New Year figure. He's also outraged by the fact that the American is replacing the images of our traditional Santa Claus since his recognition is close to 100%, according to the Russian outlet Life. Borodin is not the only one calling for the end of Santa Claus influence in Russia, as the deputy of Bayanak Regional Parliament, Mikhailov Ivanov, called for Santa Claus items to be removed from the store shelves and replaced with Ded Morov, also known as Father Frost. I'm not going to pronounce that one. The daughter of Ded Morez said the Snow Maiden. All right. So here's actually a picture of Father Frost with the Snow Maiden, which looks curiously like Santa Claus. So what does he do? He gives gifts to well-mannered children on Christmas night and delivers pro-Soviet propaganda. So, children, if you supported Ukraine over there, we are giving you a lump of coal. Otherwise, you get an Abrams tank, I guess. I don't know. So the problem we have with this guy has to be really careful, because after, little before this happened, Vladimir Putin actually dressed as Santa, not Father Frost, but Santa, to save a boy being raised as a girl by two fathers. So here's Vladimir Putin dressing as Santa Claus, not Father Frost, standing against all of the nonsense we have going in the American culture. I have some things I might want to say. Not sure I want to say them on YouTube. But anyway, Santa Claus is a Russian agent. Think about that as we move on into our world. And we'll wrap up here. If you want to help support the channel, you can have a look over on Patreon, patreon.com/TOMM. The short story for last month should be coming out very, very soon. I finished the text. It is all edited. I am needing to do the audiobook. I'm going to attempt to get that audiobook done tomorrow or the next day. It should be up by early next week. You can find that on Patreon, on Subscribestar, or on Locals. But you can jump in over here. You can also, if you want, and you're not a $5 up member, you can actually get the ebook or the audiobook for Code Red over there on Patreon. If you're just a follower, or $1. If you are a $5 or up member, you can download those for free. So if you want the ebook or the audiobook of the last season's short stories, you can grab those over there. So patreon.com/TOMM. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.